Okay, so we're going to take a look here at fitting. I made the screen really big so that you'd be able to see it a little bit better. We're going to go over this one project about a food web. Now, some people had a little problem with it last year, so I thought just going over a little bit would help give you a good start on making your way through it. So, they're talking about food chains, food webs. I think one of the problems that people had is they weren't able to, this looks fairly easy. You can just simple little arrows here. So it's kind of easy to follow that. Over on this one, the arrows get a little bit more complicated, but if you really look through it, it's really very simple too. Both of them show that we have a producer here. Okay, that means that they're going to be producing food, and usually they're plants. So plants will use sun energy, and if you look at the diagram down here, it shows that too. They're primary producers. They use the sun energy, and they use carbon dioxide and water, and they produce food for themselves. Now, when they have produced food for themselves, also other animals will also eat the plant and obtain some of that energy for itself. So what these arrows here, maybe they should have, well, I don't know, you can kind of see the tip. The arrow is pointing from the plant over to the rabbit, from the plant up to the deer, from the plant to the grasshopper. This is showing who is going to eat the plant. So the energy, the rabbit, the grasshopper, the deer are going to eat the plant, and so the energy is going to be obtained from the plant. So it kind of shows you the direction of energy flow. It's going to go from the plant, where it was made, up now into the deer and the rabbit and the grasshopper. Now you can go further. It looks like here, even the deer, here's another tree would be like a plant. You can see that the arrow goes from there. The deer will eat some of the leaves off of there. Okay, and so the energy flow is coming from the tree that uses photosynthesis to make food, and then the deer will eat some of the leaves and obtain some of that energy for itself. So the arrows kind of can go from you can have multiple arrows going to and from multiple organisms a lot of times. So here the grasshopper eat the plant, and then here's a mouse eating the grasshopper. Here's an owl, or is that a hawk? Hawk or an owl eating the mouse here. It looks like a hawk because there's probably the owl there. So that's all that represents here. Like it says here, the arrows indicate the direction of energy flow. It will always start down here in that primary producer, and then heads on up the food chain as bigger and bigger animals usually will feed upon smaller animals. Now, as you go through the rest of here's which is kind of interesting, is that I don't know if it says anything about it here. Photoautotrophs, those are plants that make their own food from sunlight, and they're called primary producers. Primary, because they establish the basis for most other production. They are the ones that actually create material from non-living sources. So sunlight, energy goes down, carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. Plants make glucose, and then the animals will then feed upon the plants, and that energy flow just moves right on up the food web. Now, as you notice, some of these words here are, in purple and underlined. What they've done here is, if you forget what those terms are, you can click on one, and it takes you to the glossary here, which is nice. It's very quick. And then after you have, looked up the appropriate definition of the word, so that it doesn't do any good to read the couple of sentences that are there if there are words in it that have no meaning to you. So take the time to go in and look up the words that you don't know in your glossary, and then it says click the browser's back button to return to the activity. So that's easy enough. An algae marine food web. Let's see here. Let's see, I think they have a picture of it right down here on the right. So they're going to be talking about that. This one up here was the land one, and then you can also have one in the ocean. Let's see what it says here. The photoautotrophs, remember those are the plants that use sunlight. Photo kind of reminds you of light. with which we are most familiar are the trees and flowers that we see every day on land. However, there are a substantial number of photoautotrophs in the marine environment too, most of which we can't see without a microscope. And some of those would be like marine algae, cyanobacteria. Probably algae you've heard of and know what that is. Cyanobacteria, if you don't, then just click on that word and find out what that is, and then go back and reread this, knowing now what the word cyanobacteria is. Now let's see, each level of a food web or food chain is called a trophic or feeding level. Okay, I think most of this stuff you can pick up as you work your way through. Again, some words, if you don't know, you can use your glossary. I like this. It's a pretty good definition of photoautotroph and heterotroph, so read that. It's good if you can break the words down. It will help you remember then when they put the two terms together, what that word itself means. So I think that's what they have done here, which is always helpful. So there is a simple marine food chain. Here's a more complicated one. Looks like we have a squid and a crab, some copepods, here's some microscopic plankton. So you can see that algae down here, phytoplankton. Those are going to be some of the algae is going to be the producers, and they're going to be fed upon by microscopic little animals, and then the bigger animals eat those, and on up the food chain until here we get to the shark. So the shark is going to obtain his energy from what? Let's see. It looks like the seal. The energy has come up to the seal, and his energy can actually go into the shark, be used for the shark's energy if he eats the seal. The shark can also obtain energy, for bodily processes by eating the fish here and obtaining energy from that. Here's a larger fish that the shark eat. So, kind of just take a peek through here. The arrows are the same thing. They'll always be going from. And if you forget which is which as to which way the energy is going or what the meaning is behind it, take a look at something that you're more familiar with up here. Here's a fish and a seal. We know that the seal would eat the fish, so that shows that the seal is obtaining energy from the fish, and so there's that arrow going from the fish. Energy is traveling up to the seal. So that's a little bit easier to see if you look at organisms that you're more familiar with rather than down here, the ones that you're not. Now when we get down here, we have an activity, and it says here, click here to get started. It's going to have something to do, it's going to be identical to this here. What you're going to do is you're going to put the appropriate organisms into this food web. So if you click on here, it comes up. You can't make a mistake if you try to put a box into a square that it doesn't belong in. It won't let you. Now once you get this filled in appropriately, all you have to do to turn it in, you don't have to draw out the food web here. Just put A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and whatever the appropriate organism is in. If algae goes here, then put A, algae. If birds goes there, then put A, birds. So it's an easy way for you to actually be able to turn in, the food web to me. Then you can click out of that. Go ahead and take a look through here. There's the same things that we're dealing with in our food web here. Tells what the organism is. It tells whether it's a producer or a consumer. See, the algae is a producer. It tells what their prey or their food is, what they eat, and then what eats them here. So there's multiple things. And then once you get down here, we have 5 questions to answer. I want you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you'll notice when you look through there, it says, what would you hypothesize might happen? Do you remember what a hypothesis is? It's that educated guess. So you may not know exactly when it says, what would you hypothesize might happen? So you're making an educated guess, not just a random guess that has nothing to support it. Okay, you don't just want to put an answer down that has nothing to support that answer whatsoever at all. Hypothesis is an educated guess. So based on everything you've read up here, based on past learning from other classes, what you've read, you should be able to make a pretty good educated guess or a hypothesis as to what might happen to the other organisms in the web if killer whales went extinct. The the other couple are like that too. What might happen? What might happen? So once you get that done, just go ahead and turn that in, and I hope that helps a bit on making it through this particular project. I don't think you'll have a lot of problems with it, but if something comes up that I've forgotten to say, feel free to give me a call or contact me in some way, and you and I can look at it together one-to-one and get you started on it, okay, and move you forward. So thanks for watching, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye.